Good afternoon. I'm going to give everyone just a minute to get in here and then we shall get started. And you're all in for a treat. You could still be my friend though, Devon, even though you have that Giants helmet.
Hey man, gotta have it, gotta have it.
Exactly. All right, so it's 3:01. We'll get started. So, welcome to another session of our expert series where we're bringing you real world experts to enhance your skill, your mindset, your health, and in this case, your abundance and wealth. So, I had met Devon several years ago at a group that both of us contribute and speak at called Pro Athlete Community. The one thing that I noticed right away about Devon is, man, this guy's sharp. Always had on a really nice suit, very articulate. You could tell he came prepared with his books, his follow-up. And as I got to know him, his wife, Camille, is also a compass agent out in Arizona. And Devon has had this amazing transition from an athlete to a business person, right? And so, if you know anything about professional sports, the transition is not always the easiest, but the career that he's built, the marriage that he has, the father that he is, and even when I was talking to him yesterday, he's like, you know what? Got to go to gymnastics now, right? So, he really embodies all the principles of business and life that we talk about. So, Devon, you want to say a couple words to introduce yourself, and we'll just jump right into things.
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing? I'm excited to join the call and hope I can add some value. If you guys have any questions along the way, send them to Chirac, and I'm an open book, so ask me anything. I played 9 years in the NFL. I've written two books, and I mainly wrote the books because I've read a ton of finance books and books on real estate and investing, and there wasn't many people who looked like me writing books, and I'm like I wanted to reach a different demographic that I felt like I can reach that a lot of other people can't, being a professional athlete and an African American. So I wrote those books. I've been investing in real estate since 2014 when I was drafted in the NFL. Started buying properties then, and I've never really stopped. And now I own my own lending company here in Phoenix, where I lend to fix and flippers and developers in the Phoenix market. And I feel like it's a lifestyle business. I want to be able to grow that business, but I got meet the teacher. I got to meet my daughter's teacher right after this call later. So I feel like that's balance.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's jump into it. So, I remember you sharing this interesting story of when you played football, people are doing all kinds of different things. People are into ball to play ball, people are playing ball and they're partying, but you were doing something else. And like people, you're saying, like people always gave you shit for it. So, what were you doing from the time you got into the league that really started your alternate path?
Yeah, I started investing in real estate right away, and I was kind of publicly talking about it, and I got a lot of slack for it, throughout my career because, I would come out of practice on a Wednesday and then, be at home and I would record a video about buying a property that I invested in and the numbers on it and stuff. So I would catch some flack in the locker room from players and sometimes even coaches, and it would be one of those things like, "Oh, DK, you going to record a video after you leave here?" And oh, you're the real estate guy, the real estate guru, and all of those things. And I had to take that flack, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't sure at the time. And now looking back, it's those same kind of coaches and players who reach out to me and it's like, "Oh, you got to show me how to do this or do that." And I don't say that to brag, but it's like I'm glad I stayed on track and didn't listen to the outside noise because fast forward to today and I put myself in a position to be successful outside of the game. And I think a lot of people should kind of take that. It's okay to go down a different path that's kind of unpaved and make your own way, doing it the way that you think is best, even if everyone else is going a different direction.
Well, I think there's something really important in that, right? I think for everybody. Like, what is it like really? And like, what was your mindset around like you're in a high performance top 1% athlete. And these people aren't saying like, oh, come on, you be the video guy. It's a lot more blunt than that. So like, it takes a lot of courage to stand strong when the court of public opinion's going the other way. Like if you had to give everyone one piece of advice, because I know all of them have this, right? Like you don't need to role play. This is stupid. Why do you go to coaching? Or who do you think you want to be? And like all of these different things when you want to become somewhere else. Like, so, living this experience and getting to the other side, like for people that are, on that ladder or those stairs climbing up, what would you tell them?
I'd say once you've identified the things that you think is aligned with the goals that you have for your life, don't let anybody else's opinion shake that or waver that at all. For instance, I knew I wanted to be successful both on and off the field, and I had a good understanding that the game of football was going to end one day. So for me, just focusing on football wasn't going to work for me because it's like, okay, when I retire, what am I going to do? How am I going to make a living still and continue to make money? What's going to fulfill me? What are those things going to look like? And a lot of my teammates didn't care about that and like, oh, I'm focused on ball. It's one in front of me. But my mindset was like, hey, we have 24 hours in a day. When we leave the facility, a lot of people are going to play video games. They're smoking pot. They're partying. They're doing this. I'm spending time on figuring out how to build a real estate portfolio, invest in real estate, learn about business. And those are the things that I felt like was aligned with the goals that I have for my life long after I played. And being able to stick to that when you are really aligned. So you mentioned like coaching or role playing and doing those things. Those things could really marginally impact your business. And it's kind of like laying the foundation over and over. And that those things start to compound on your life, one decision at a time. And all of a sudden that role playing call that really benefits you on being able to close a deal in the future. And it might not be immediate, but understanding the delayed gratification of the decisions you're making today and being like, I'm gonna build these blocks and I'm gonna learn this stuff and I'm gonna learn the Compass One platform. My wife has it, so she's diving into that, and I'm gonna take all of Sherrock's classes and do these things. And some people are just nose down. Oh, I've always done real estate this way. I mean, I don't know where all of you guys are, but Arizona's newer to the Compass platform. So there's some agents in Arizona who are pushing back on it or not wanting to adopt it or not taking Sherrock's classes. And I think like maybe it's working for them now because they got enough business. But I think the people who are making that commitment, they're gonna catch up to those people who are high performers before but aren't leaning into the software and some of Sherrock's stuff. So I would say take the time if you know it's the right thing, if you know it can improve your business, put the time in now so it can benefit you later.
It's funny when I saw him at the last event, he's like, dude, I hear you all the time. And like, it took me a second to put the two together. He's like, my wife always listens to it. And like, I wish I actually, Devon, like going back, I should have had like the kids are both sick and home. I should have had my son sit here and listen to that because I think everyone's kids need to hear this message, right? You can't give up on it. So, in publishing two books, like what's the core message you really want people to take away from what you wrote?
I would say there in my first book, It All Adds Up. I talk about a story where it's a story in the Bible, but I think it's one of the coolest stories just in general. And there was like a servant, and it was a master and three servants, and one servant had 5 bags of gold, the other servant had two, and the third servant had one. And the master left, and he's like, I gave you these bags of gold. Go multiply it and show me what you did when I come back." And the guy with 5 bags turned it to 10. The guy with 2 bags turned it to 4, and the guy with 1 bag did nothing with it and was lazy and buried it. And when the master came back, the guy with 5 bags said, "Hey, I turned it into 10. I invested in this and that. I did this." And master was really happy. The guy with 2 bags, same thing. He was really happy. The guy with 1 bag, he did nothing. He was lazy. He was mad that he didn't get as many bags as the other guy. And he's denounced in the Bible, is never talked about again, and went on to perish. And one of the things that it really asked me is like can't always control the cards we're dealt in life, but we can just control how we play them. And whether you're the person with 5 bags of gold, 2 bags of gold, or 1 bag of gold in your life, how do you multiply it? And I've seen time and time again, the person who started out with 1 bag ends up with more bags of gold in the end than the guy with five because they multiply it and it compounds. The one turns to two, the two to four, the four to eight, and all of a sudden they've done so well in their life. And you see so many stories like that, but why can't that story be you and I? In what we're doing in our businesses and what we're doing professionally, personally. So I think that's the overall message of like it doesn't matter where you start. And I had a chip on my shoulder, to be honest, growing up because I'm a second generation NFL player. My dad played too. So people always looked at me as the kid with 5 bags of gold because, oh, your dad played. It's easy. And I'm like, I acknowledge that my dad put me in a position to be successful with what he did, but I want to be judged off of what I do with what I was given. So I started out with 5 bags of gold. By the time that I pass one day, I want to be able to say, look at what I did with what I was given. And I think as a person, that's all you can look at and ask for. Play the cards you've been dealt in life to the best of your ability. And that's the overall message. And I just iterated through, real estate, which has been a huge vehicle for me in learning how to invest and get into business.
Talk about bags of gold, man. It's like you're looking at the questions I wrote out here. When you really realize that agents talk about bags of gold, I was telling all these guys today, I'm like, you guys all sit on deals, right? Like, and if you think about it, you go to a restaurant, you tip somebody, they get a percentage, right? So my message to everybody is like, look, the goal is to stop working for tips, right? Eventually, you want to get to a path. When do you realize that all these agents are sitting on a gold mine of deals?
Well, I mean, to understand that you have the most valuable thing or you have access to the most valuable thing as agents, which is deals, then the other pieces are easier to put together. So obviously, first, you can always just be the agent, find a buyer, find a seller, sell the deal, make your 3% commission or whatever you're paying. That's great. But there's so many more opportunities that if you take the time to learn and build, now you can wedge yourself into actually participating and getting some of the upside of these deals outside of just being an agent. And there's very few agents that are fully taking advantage of those opportunities because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of kind of go get it and realizing, okay, I can actually leverage the fact that I'm bringing the deal, partner with this developer, this fix and flipper. I can build relationships. I can use the next three closing commissions that I get, and I can put it away because I don't necessarily need that revenue, and I can use that as a down payment and take the next project that is a clear winner down myself. And I already have all these different relationships. How hard is it to find a contractor that does great work and get a GC to do the project? And I partner with them. He does the work, I bring the capital, and I bring the deal. Like, so there's so many different ways that you can juice your returns and build an actual business that's based upon and kind of vertically integrated on top of your real estate agent, day to day.
Yeah, but Devon, people say all the time, oh, the market's so high. There are no deals out there. Can you dispel that myth for everybody?
I highly disagree with that. I mean, there's deals to be found in every single market. I don't care where anybody on the call is. There's deals to be found. And my challenge to you is, are you doing enough work to find those opportunities? I think, being familiar with Compass, like being able to get some of the off-market opportunities and see some of those and maybe bring a buyer or market it early. That's a great opportunity. Building relationships, the neighborhoods around where you live and where you like to sell real estate. Like I'm in Arizona, there's always Arcadia properties that are going for sale that are hot to developers. So you see a beat down house that needs to be the landscaping needs to be done. That's probably starting to have deferred maintenance. Is that person willing to sell? Can you go and reach out and find out who that owner is or start to send mailers to them or find their email. So I think if you are taking the initiative, it's not going to just deals aren't going to just fall in your lap below market value, all of that. But if you're leveraging the network that you have and the resources you have with the MLS, other agents and all of that, you will be able to find opportunities. And there's people out there doing it. In every market, there's somebody who's finding good deals that are worth as investment properties, our fix and flips, our development projects. So why can't you figure out what they are doing and be one of the people that is finding those type of opportunities?
So what do you think the biggest mistake people make in looking for deals as agents?
I would say the biggest mistake I see is not putting the work in to find like off-market opportunities. Like as far as if you're looking for deals and all you're talking to is other agents who just list on the market, like it's like, can you get ahead of some deals and find opportunities before they hit the market or see distress in certain neighborhoods? Can you, there's an agent here that I'm friends with, and there's like neighborhoods where he clocks constantly, and he's like, I've been doing mailers and getting the contact information on this neighborhood, and one day one of these people are going to sell. And last year, like the guy finally called him. He said no for like 3 years, and finally called him, and it's a home run type of opportunity. And he got the deal. And he's going to be the listing agent, but he's also partnering with the developer, and this one's in Arcadia as well. So I would say like thinking that the deals are just going to come is the wrong mentality. Like it takes more than that. But I think agent work in general takes more than that. If you want to really build a business, you have to build your email list. You have to have a marketing strategy and really reach out and foster your email list to where you're reaching out. You want to stay front of mind with these people constantly. And it's no different in trying to find a really good deal. Identify neighborhoods where those opportunities are and keep hammering the rock until it breaks.
It's interesting you say that stuff. So this really, it's not a matter of like a full mindset shift. It's a matter of integration.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
Right?
I believe people think like, you got to change your whole mindset. You can just put in the where it's kind of automated. Like I really believe in SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. And it's like if you know you want to look for off-market opportunities, what's a system that you can put in place where you're actively doing that regularly? That's not like I'm not saying you need to go to door knock 50 doors a day, like how people used to do in the background. But is there certain neighborhoods you can target with email campaigns, marketing mailers? Maybe you do door knock a little bit on their own. Hey, are you trying to sell? Like whatever strategies work in your market, there's little things that you can do and systems you can put in place to where it just builds on itself. And what I found is people aren't willing to like do that because it's not always immediate. So you do that and you keep doing it and you keep doing it, and then all of a sudden you reap the benefits of that down the line.
I always tell people one of the best gifts you can give yourself is delayed gratification.
Absolutely.
So if you guys think about this, right, it's just a mindset shift. Like it's not anything else. But like I always tell people this, there are many different reasons that somebody could sell a property, right? Like, and if you look at a lot of these markets in America, people's homes have appreciated and they're worth more than they've ever imagined, right? And so not everyone, believe it or not, cares about money, right? Like they just don't care, right? There's that group of people, right? So to sell their house off market and make it from like a resale where you go through all this different stuff to get like maximum value, not everyone wants that, right? So that's like one bucket. And they would just sell to an investor, they're closing in cash, it's in 10 days, they have a place to go, they're out. Then to his distressed property, look at the psychology. Listen, people in a lot of these suburban neighborhoods and stuff have pride. They don't want to put their house on the market. It looks bad. They're afraid of what people do. So in the end, they'll just kind of take what they get quietly, take it in cash, tell their friends whatever story that they want to tell them and leave, right? Then there are other
Well,
people
if they,
that
if they like your number and you're staying front of mind, they may take it before they even go to market. It might be a really nice property. I've seen that before. Like, guy got a property for
yeah,
80K under what it's actually worth, but he's been fostering a relationship with the seller for a long time. The seller was finally ready to sell, and he liked his number. He bought it for like 300 and selling it for 500. It might be worth 600, but all he sees is you're gonna buy it from me for 500. I'm gonna make 200K on this property, and
I don't have to
we're
go
gonna
through
close
all of
fast, and
this
I don't have
different
to
stuff.
yeah, I don't have to go to market and do all of this. There's people who do that every day.
So let's go through some numbers, right? When deals land on your desk, like what's the first thing you look at? I know you got an SOP for everything. So what's that SOP when you start analyzing a deal?
Well, see, now that I'm a lender, I get to see what a lot of investors are doing in my market. So when I'm looking at a deal and stuff, I'm automatically looking at what are they buying it for and what is the projected ARV for this project, and I'm underwriting it. So
What
let's
does
say,
ARV stand for people who don't know what it is?
after repair value. So, let's say they're buying a $500,000 property and they plan on putting $200,000 in it, and they're going to sell it for $1 million. I want to make sure that the profit margins are juicy enough for the person who wants to do that project to where, they're going to be motivated to buy rehab and go through the process of selling it. So I'm always looking at as is value versus ARV, and what's the scope of work? Does it match the area? Like if they if they think they're going to rehab a property in Paradise Valley, which is a really nice area in Phoenix, for $150,000, it's really not happening. They're not going to get top value for that because it needs to be luxury. You're going to spend 300K plus for a project to get it up to standards in Paradise Valley and to get that pricing. So I'm kind of looking, those are the three things: is what's the as is, what's the rehab budget, and what's the ARV. And then you could kind of go backwards and look at what's the profit margin on that deal for the investor. Because my mindset is, as a lender, if it makes sense for them, it makes sense for me. If there's enough margin that they're going to make a healthy, really good return, then the chances that they're going to pay me back and they're going to make their interest payments so they can go and get that return are high. But when the margins are slim, if one thing goes wrong, if the rehab takes longer, if it sits on the market longer, if all these things play in, all of a sudden they're in backwards and now they're in a tough position. So that's something I look at, and I just try to always look at it from the investor standpoint, even as a lender, because I'm like, because that's how I started. I was like, I was buying deals. So even now that I'm lending, why does this deal make sense for you? And I think one thing for all the agents on the call is you have to factor in the holding cost of a deal. And I think people who are inexperienced forget that. So in that example, if you're all in for 700, bought for 500, rehabs 200, and you plan on selling for 1 million, well, you got to factor in the interest you're going to pay for the next 6 to 8 months while you're doing the rehab and trying to sell it, and make sure that the profit is still juicy enough. So let's say you determine you're going to have to spend $100,000 over the next 8 months to rehab and get this property sold. Well, you got to back in that, and you're planning to make 300, but you're going to have to pay 100 in interest, let's call it. So now you're making 200. Now you got closing costs, all of these things, and just making sure that the numbers make sense as an investment.
So in terms of investment, when you were buying properties, right? Like what would be if you're doing like a fix and flip, say it's a $500,000 house, you put the money in. Walk us through like a scenario where like the numbers actually work. And then like to your other scenario, look, I always think that people see what they want to see, hear what they want to hear, and everything that glitters is gold. Like I'm going to make all this money. You're really not, right? So if you add in all those numbers, so walk people through like the anatomy of like an actual good deal. And then ones that are like ones that, especially for people starting out that look borderline that you should probably pass on.
Well, my kind of starter, because there a lot of people start out with smaller flips, right? So I'll give you an example of like a potentially bad deal. You're doing a deal and you're buying it for 300 and you plan on putting 50K into it. It's just a light rehab. This is in like a working class neighborhood, but you think there's an opportunity to make some good money on it. So you're buying for 300, you're putting 50 into it, and you think you're going to be able to sell in 3 to 4 months. It's a quick rehab. You're just doing flooring, paint, all that. So, you're all in 350 and you think you're going to get out in 3 to 4 months and make 50 grand. But the problem is you didn't factor in all of the interest you're going to pay for those 4 months, let's call it. But then what if it sits on the market longer? So for me, one of the first things I tell people, especially early on, is always plan for the holding cost to be longer and cost more than you expected. So don't think it's going to be perfect and you're going to get the project done in a month and a half because it's a light rehab, and then get it to market and sell it within 2 months and you're done with it. You're in and out in 4 months and going to make 50 grand. Because that 50 grand profit, if it sits for 8 months instead, and then now it's a stale listing. So even though it's at a great price and you should be able to sell it, people are wondering why it's been on the market for 8 months now. So now you got a project that's sitting for a year, and that whole 50K of equity that you were planning on putting in your pocket is gone. And now you're stuck in a deal trying to figure out how you're going to get out of it. So that's a great example that happens in just about every market. Depending on what market you guys are in, adjust the numbers for your market. If you're in the Midwest, those numbers might look more like 100 grand or purchase or whatever, but that concept is there. So I like to always say there needs to be enough margin. So even on a light cosmetic type of rehab, I tell people to estimate 6 to 8 months anyways. If the numbers work at 6 to 8 months and you get out of it in 4 months, you're going to be surprised in a good way. Like, shoot, you didn't have to pay another 2 months of interest to your lender. That's more money in your pocket. But you don't want to be surprised the other way. You don't want to plan for 4 months and it takes 8 months. and now you're not making any money. So that's like the biggest thing that I would look at is overestimate until you've been doing it for a while and you got your crews dialed in and the exact market you're in and stuff flies off the shelf here. So like until you're very confident, assume that everything's going to take longer. And if it's a big rehab, I would be underwriting everything for a year. Like, if it doesn't make sense at a year, don't do it. If you're doing 100K plus rehab, you need to estimate that the rehab is going to take 6 to 8 months and it's going to take 3 to 4 months to rent. And it's the same concept. If it works there and you do it faster, you're making more. Good for you. But if you're estimating at a year on a bigger project, you should be safe to where, all right, if you're going to make $150,000 if the project goes a full year, if it goes 8 months, you're making 200. You're like, you're happy. So that's the kind of mindset that I try to tell investors to have. And when you're conservative like that, you're usually pleasantly surprised and not disappointed.
Also, do it stress. Listen, I feel very confident. I know Devon fairly well. He's a conservative guy. So, like, if you follow his playbook, you will definitely err on the side of caution. All right, last one around analyzing deals. What are like the red flags that you see when you're looking at it? Right. So, like, when you look at a deal comes shows it. What is like the immediate red flags that people should look for just to move on in a very quick fashion?
I mean, I love this question because I feel like this is the question where I think agents are like can become the best investors. It's bad comping. People see what they want to see. Like there's not in there, you see this property and you think the price is good and there's no exact comp, but you're stretching, going out further than you should. Or it's kind of like that, or like man, try to make sure your comps are dialed in, and if they're not, discount what you think you're going to be able to sell the price significantly so you can make sure that there's margin. Don't just assume that you're going to be able to sell your property for 500,000 because a year and a half ago a property in the neighborhood sold for 500, because that does not necessarily mean it's the case. So that's one thing I see a lot. Underestimating the rehab budgets. Like if it's really have that dialed in. If you're new and you don't know pricing, get a couple of bids beforehand. Delay the closing so you can make sure you get some contractor bids out there. Some people think the rehab's only going to cost $50,000 and it's going to cost 100, and so that's a huge mistake I see. And for me, I've done enough deals myself and I've seen enough to where I'm like, bro, like, yes, it's a light cosmetic, but you think you're only going to spend 15 grand on this project? Like, you need to do landscaping, you need to do flooring, you need to paint, like, you got other repairs. Like, it's going to be more than 15 grand.
Oh,
So,
always have a
I've seen that.
20% reserve. Also, what I've seen people do in contracts when they work with contractors, you talk to them, they're like, no, it won't go over this. Great. You put in the contract not to exceed, and then you put an amount that they agree in. And this way, when they start finding all this other stuff, and if people don't want to do that, and you're in a rehab situation, you might want to walk away because you want somebody that's not going to yes you to death, right, Devon? And then be like, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, now we have this. Now, like that's how people lose their shirts in these deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the back end of a deal, a huge mistake I see people make is they sell for just the number that they really want instead of get it off the market and get it sold. I've seen so many times where they're trying to push the value. So they want to sell it for 600 and it's not selling there, but they keep it there and they're just reducing the price a little bit. And now the days on market's increasing and they're just losing value. I've seen way more investors just make money listing that property at 550 instead. It sells quickly and they're on to the next project instead of trying to maximize every little dollar. And then you end up, your days on market go longer. Every day it's on the market, you're paying more interest to somebody like me, and now you have the buyers who are kind of looking at the deal like, well, why is it sitting so long? And then they start to lowball you, and all this happens. So I haven't really seen anyone try to be on the high end and really succeed consistently. You might do it on a deal or two, but it usually catches up to you if you're trying to push the values on the sale. So I would say underwrite at the median ARV and try to get that property sold quickly. And if you get lucky and you hit a market where it's really desirable and there's multiple offers, let your price get pushed up because the activity is so high. But don't try to do it prematurely and list it for the very maximum it can sell for.
Yeah, hope is not a strategy, especially with money, right? So,
Yeah.
when you think about risk, like how do you look at risk differently than you'd say a traditional lender?
I would say I look at every deal like it was my own. And most lenders, they've never owned real estate themselves. So I'm lending out my own capital. I've raised some money from investors. So when I see a deal, it's like, would I do this deal? Do I like the area? Do I like the location? Does the rehab budget make sense? Is the ARV real? I'm looking at it like it's mine, and most lenders are looking at it, a lot differently than that. They're just looking at it as like, okay, this is the box that we lend in. We only lend like we do, you got to put 15 down and this and that. Like, they have a very structured because they're brokers. So they're like, this is what the money guy told me I can lend on. So this is our parameters. They don't care about the quality of the deal as much and what's going on. So for me, I feel like it helps me because I can identify really good operators who have a real business and sustainable in that way. And being someone who's done projects myself, I think that gives me an advantage.
You got to be in the game to know it. So let's introduce private lending to people. Explain to people what it is and walk us through like the actual scenario, please.
So most people have at least heard the term of like hard money lending. And that's like in private lending isn't that much different, but the main thing is you're going to somebody private like myself. Now I've made my private lending business an actual company, so I have real SOPs in a business. But what I recommend everyone go out there, if you know wealthy individuals, if you tell them you'll pay them 10%, 12%, 15% annualized on their money and collateralized by an asset, there's so many investors I know who go directly to wealthy people and just get money for their projects directly from people with money. Like, oh, your friend has X amount in the stock market. Hey, how about I pay you 12% annualized? I'll pay you every single month for the next 8 months while I'm doing this project, and your collateral is the property. If I don't pay you, you can take over the property. So that's essentially what I do, but I've just made it an actual company. I'm using all private capital, and that's why I say I'm a private lender. A true hard money lender, they're institutionally backed. So they have a very strict buy box. This is what they do. If you don't pay them back or they're not really relationship building, it's kind of a different model. It's the same thing, but a different model. You can get a lot more flexibility from a private lender than you can a hard money lender because a hard money lender has their buy box of what they do. They can't really color outside the lines or do anything creatively at all. For me, the borrowers that I've worked with for a while, I can be creative with terms. I can do cross collateralizations. I can do second positions if they have enough equity in a real estate property they already own. Because I'm just looking at my risk profile. I'm like, is this a good borrower? Do they have capital? And I determine if it's a risk that I'm willing to take based on their situation. When a hard money lender, they don't have those options. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And it's the biggest opportunity for investors. People don't recognize that they can go direct to people with money and say, will you give me some money? I'll pay you interest.
Yeah, and explain the 12% annualized or the 15% annualized versus just like so. Do I invest $100,000 in a stock? I made 15% in a year. I made 15 grand. How's it different with annualized returns?
That's essentially the same thing. So, but what's different between somebody who has $100,000 and investing privately in a loan, as opposed to investing in the stock market, is its cash flow. So you put the stock market in, and you don't, it's going to fluctuate, and you don't know if it's really going to make 15% that year until the end, and then it does, and you're like, oh, I'm happy, and you could try to draw that gain at the end. If you go to a fix and flipper and you say, I'll charge you 12% annualized, and they got to pay you every single month. So that means every month they're paying you 1%. So on $100,000, they're paying you $1,000 every month. And that's actual cash flow. So I would say lending is great for the person who has capital to disperse out to someone and wants income. They want to offset their income or allow their income to compound. It's a great vehicle because a lot of other investments, you put money in and it fluctuates, or you put money in and you got to wait several years. Like you invest in Starbucks or some, like some big fund, and they say, "Oh, we're going to give you a 15% return, but we don't give you anything for the next 5 years." Or you can say, "Hey, I'll lend money to you, and I'll make 12% this year." So I would say that's the difference. And that's why it's becoming a really popular way to invest because of the cash flow and the simplicity of it if you understand real estate.
That's awesome. So let's get into the 15%. I was shocked when you said this. And I
Mhm.
was asking him, I said, what's the minimum down payment for your lending business? Tell them what it is.
10%. So if they're putting 10% on the purchase price, I can fund 90% of the purchase and 100% of the rehab. So, to be able to be able to put 10% down, and all you have to do is put the 10% down, cover all fees and closing costs, and then make the payments. And now you got a chance to make really good money on the deal if you are successful and you underwrite right and all of those things. That's a great opportunity for them, and I'm making good money along the way as well. So if you're gonna make, if I lend you $100,000 and that's gonna cause you to make 50 and I make 15, who's not going to take that deal? So you get to do this project and you make 50K in the end, and along the way you have to pay me 15K in total. Most people are going to take that opportunity, and then they take that 50 that they made and they roll it into the next deal, and now we're doing more and more projects together. So that's kind of the concept. I'm never meant to make more than the person operating the deal. They're taking more risk. I'm conservative in that I'm only the lender, and so my return is capped. But if the deal is right, you're going to make far more and you're going to pay your fair share to me along the way because I'm the lender.
So do people make monthly payments with you when they are in these
Yeah,
deals?
but it doesn't have to be structured that way. So if somebody goes and find a wealthy individual that they want to lend that they want to get to lend to them, I know people who get high net worth individuals to lend to them, and they just say, "I'll pay you on the back end." For me and how I operate my business, I want monthly payments because if you understand business,
I
the
do.
residual income is really important. So for me, I want to see that de-risk me every month. If I know you're making payments, the chances that you're going to default on that loan goes down every month because you've already paid me however much every single month. So it's like you're 6 months in and it's not going as you want. The chances that you're going to finish the project, get it sold, all that is high because you had to put 10 down and you had to make payments to me every month. If I wait till the back end and that deal's not going well, you might be like, "Oh, there's no money in the deal anymore, forget it." So I don't like waiting till the back end, but there's 100% people that you can find that will do that if you go raise the money privately.
All right, let's go through an actual scenario, and then we're going to talk about getting these guys in the game, then open it up to Q&A. So Justin had a good example here. Yes, what's the formula of calculating a good deal? So I'm assuming the house is $1 million. The rehab is 150. Justin, how much is the house worth in the end? Let's say 1.5. Reasonable numbers, Devon?
Yeah, yeah. Let's say 1.5.
All right, so let's walk through an actual scenario then. He's gonna get out his spreadsheet right now.
Yeah. So I mean, on that deal, you got 1.5, and you're all
Yeah,
in.
pull up your thing, man. It's okay. You want to share your screen or anything else? It's cool too.
No, no, we could just talk through it. So it's one
All right.
five. You're all in. The ARV is 1.5, and you're all in 1.15. So on a one, like let's say the loan amount on that is $1 million. So $1 million times 12% is $120,000. If you're assuming the loan's going to go a full 12 months. So let's just assume that for easy month numbers. So you're all in 1.15, and you're going to have to pay $120,000 in interest. So 1.15 plus 120, that's 1.27. And you plan on selling for 1.5. So now you got 1.27, and you got to pay on a deal like that. What do you guys want to say that you got to pay your on closing costs to your agents and all that? Let's say 6%, three each way, or let's say five, 2.5. You pay 2.5 each way. So now you sell for 1.5. What's 5% on 1.5?
75,000.
Huh?
75,000.
75,000. So we had 1.27 plus 75,000
But there are other closing costs too.
plus 1.27 plus 75,000. That's 1.345 plus closing costs. So let's say 1% closing costs or 1.5. What do you guys think?
We'll go on the high end, 1.5.
1.5. So you sold for 1.5 times 1.5% closing costs. That's another 22. So you start to see 22 plus 1345, I think it was. So, you're talking close to like 1.4 almost. Like, so let's just round up and say 1.4. So on that deal, let's say all in, when it's all said and done, you make $100,000 and that was $1 million project. I would say that's not worth it. So
Oh,
that's
it's too
that's
much
how
risk
you
if the
yeah,
property
so
sits.
if that like in a deal like that like if you're so your interest rate is or your interest, you're paying like 10 grand a month on that on $1 million or 12 grand a month on that, 12. So it's like if that property sits longer, if it goes over a year, you're looking at less than $100,000. So I would say on a project of that size, that makes zero sense. But that's how you reverse engineer it. And you guys are excellent at being able to calculate this because you guys know what closing costs are. You see it all the time. So what's realistically going to be the agent fees? What's realistically the closing costs? And then you back end everything else, and if it's a big project, assume 12 months. If it's a light, small project, assume 8 months, 6 to 8 months, depending on how conservative you want to be. And you just reverse engineer it. For me, if it's a million plus project, I want to see 300K plus of money made. Because otherwise you're taking a lot of risk for not that great of a return. So if you're not seeing 300 plus, and if it's a million plus project, as the lender, if it goes 12 months, I'm making 120. So I don't want to see you making less than I'm making. That doesn't make sense. So I would say on $1 million deal that you're going to sell for 1.5, or you think you're going to sell for 1.5, I would like to see 300K of profit, or somewhere close to that all in. You should be making more than double that I'm making. And if I'm making 120, you need to be making 250 or more. So that's how I would look at that and see like, okay, that's a good deal. So if I saw that and I reverse engineered those numbers, and I'm like, you're about to make 100K if it goes a year. I don't like this deal. And I'll show it to the borrower. I'll be like, hey, I'm making more money than you if this goes a year. So you're betting that it doesn't go a year. It's a big project. I don't think this is that great. And I keep it straight with them with that. So, that's a good marker. If it's a smaller deal and you cut those numbers in half and they're gonna make 80 grand over 8 months, okay, 8 months, it was a 400K purchase and selling for 750. And after everything, you're going to make 80 grand in 8 months or less. And if you sell it for in 6 months, it'll be even better than that. So that's how you kind of just move based on price point and your risk. But the risk has to make sense with what your equity is going to be and how much money you're going to make in the end.
Juice got to be worth the squeeze, guys. And also, you can do all this in ChatGPT right now too, right? Like
Yeah, we
you
could have ran that. We
could
could have ran that exact same formula in chat for sure.
exactly. You just hold down the voice dictation button, talk through it, and say, be conservative, be aggressive, and be moderate in terms of like, is this a good deal? And look, it's the numbers are the numbers, right? So it's the last part is getting off the fence, right? Hit yes in the chat if you're now thinking of like, okay, in the next 12 to 18 months, how can I do my first deal? Let's see how many people are ready to get off sidelines.
Love it. I
Coming,
see a bunch of yes.
right? It's you guys find deals every day.
That's why like it surprises me how many agents don't invest because you guys have the best access to the most important thing. Like if you can buy for a good price and you guys know how to comp, like those are two of the hardest things to do. You're already in the real estate industry, finding a lender and finding contractors, like there's nuances to that, don't get me wrong, but like there's nothing harder than being able to find good deals and being able to underwrite and comp what the ARV is going to be. So I would say, like, as agents, perfect those two things. Can you get really good deals and are you great at comping? And if you can say yes to those things, then now you're in a position of leverage because you can do deals yourself. You can sell to other investors, so increase your sales for the year because you meet a couple of investors. So even if you don't want to do it, investors who buy these type of properties and you're getting the deals and you're doing the underwriting. So I know I have an investor friend who's an agent and he comps really well and he finds good deals. He does all the underwriting for the investors and puts the deal on the platter and makes his percentages that way and gets a lot of extra deal flow and value throughout the year, even when he's not doing the deal. So I would say, as agents perfect deal finding off-market deals and identifying deals and your underwriting, which is in your guys' wheelhouse or should be. And then that kind of steamrolls into investing and putting yourself in a position to not only be the agent, but actually the person doing the deal and putting things together.
For my friends in Arizona, Chris Carter Kent, Kelly Bramlett, like reach out to Devon, find a deal, and you can put 10% skin in the game, right? So if you think about it, you find an average price point, you put like you get 2.5%, 3% there in commission. It's only you sell three, four houses, you bank the money, like now you're in the game, right? So, all right, I want to open it up to Q&A now. We have another Devon, what time do you need to get out of here to get to that back to school
I can
run?
give you 5 minutes. I gotta go to
All right,
my meet the
cool.
teacher.
All right, guys, let's open up some questions. Drop them in the chat. Don't be shy. Yes, Devon only lends in Arizona.
Yeah, only
Outside,
in Arizona. It's my backyard. I gotta stick to what I know.
too bad. I think these guys are all ready to hit you up. I told him yesterday we were talking about this. I said, don't lend outside your area. Moving out of the world of being a professional athlete into the world of business has an even bigger challenge than winning Olympic medals. Any advice? So Roland's in Arizona. You two should actually meet. Like Roland was an Olympic gold medalist swimmer, and he's transitioning to real estate. What advice do you have for him?
I would say there's advantages we have with our competitive edge. You being an Olympics a swimmer, there's things I can assume, your work ethic, all that. I'm not gonna lie, one thing that I was surprised in the real world is how lazy a lot of people are. So take your same like tenacity, work ethic, determination, all that, and bring it into the real estate space in whatever you're doing. And that is going to get you far and ahead because there's so many people who are just doing average stuff. They're not going above and beyond. I always say there's a difference between what's mandatory and what's necessary. If you want to make a little bit of money being an agent, there's certain things you have to do that's mandatory. But if you want to be great and you really want to make more money and you really want to leverage into investing and do other things, you got to go beyond what's mandatory into what's necessary. And that takes a different level of commitment. And I'm not even just talking time, but it's setting up SOPs. It's really learning ChatGPT to integrate it. It's maybe hiring a VA to help you on back end. Like there's very few people who are doing the work and putting in the effort and the energy and building out the SOPs around them to get more done. So I would say take that same mindset you had playing your sport and bring it into real estate, and you'll see that you can make up a lot of ground.
So here's everyone's starting to ask you, do you have friends that lend in other markets?
I do not, but if you ever want to
That's
reach
something
out,
you should that's something you should look into, man. Like have
yeah.
these guys send you a percentage of the deals you send them. Because we hook you up with a whole network of people. And I know if they're certified by you, they're legit. And all right, one more question. Would you consider
I got
loaning?
tips on how to like get a high net worth individual to lend you money though. So if anybody, you can just reach out to me on social or whatever. Get my email from Sharak and I can help you there.
Dude, listen, man, I'll save your inbox. Just send me the tips and I'll send them out to everybody so you don't have to answer like 100 one-off emails. So there's something else that somebody asked about athletes and you have to go. How many pro athletes do you know in other states? Devon knows a lot of athletes. Let's set up private lunch.
Played a long time, so I know a lot of professional athletes. Not many that are directly private lending, but it's there's a lot of pro athletes everywhere. Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of them.
All right, dude, go be with your family, man. Devon,
Hey, I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it, guys. You can follow me on social at Devon Kennard, and yeah, I'm always a resource. Love talking shop. So thanks for having me, Sherrock.
All right, man. I'll see you soon in Arizona at the next dinner.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
All right, man. Later. Bye. All right, guys. Was that not like a very insightful 45 minutes? Look, my message to all of you is this. Think bigger, dream more, stop making everybody else rich, right? Now, for me, it comes down to the word confidence. When you present the deal to an investor, you're excited. You're like, these numbers are good. It's like that. But all of a sudden, when you become the investor, we're like, whoa, 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 right? It's the same concern that I have in humanity altogether, that when people will go buy clothes, bags, shoes, vacation, dinners, drinks, happy hour, travel, you don't even think about it, right? But the moment it comes down for the majority of people who are not you here or in our program or in any other program, the moment it comes down to make an investment for themselves, all of a sudden it's like, my child's going to die. I have two doctors to pick. There's only one that can operate. I don't know which one. Like, it's not brain surgery to invest in yourself. Like, what scares me is that people will invest in other transactional, recreational things, but you're your own greatest investment. So dream bigger. Like, I want to push all of you to do something that you're really uncomfortable doing, but you know it's going to be good for you, right? You guys already hear enough of my crazy ideas week to week that we just keep coming up with based on what's going on, and you're already doing it. You're becoming different people, right? So, your beliefs drive your behaviors, and your behaviors drive who you become. If you want to change who you become, you have to change your beliefs. All of you are investors. How many people here have actually given an investor a deal, right? Like, we all have. Everybody. And then at the end, you sit at the closing, and I can tell you, I've done this. You sit at the closing, you look at this guy getting a check for $475,000. You look at your check for like 50 grand, and you met the contractor, you did the work, you mapped out the budget, you picked the designer, you marketed the home. And there's always that car ride home, like you like the check, you're like, yeah, this is great, but like you still can't get out of your head, like, and the words that people say is, I made that guy $475,000. All he did was give a check, right? So look, if you want to work with Devon, like, just, there are plenty of Arizona brokers here. Go find an Arizona broker and said, find me some deals. Partner with somebody there, right? Each bring 5%. Like, if you're buying a house that's $500,000, that's 50 grand between two people. Get four people in this group, one of them be the Arizona broker. Like, there's a lot of different ways to start doing this, but reach out to people. We'll get Devon's tips on like getting wealthy people to lend you money, because we all have rich friends somewhere. And believe me, no one wants to put their money in the stock market. Like, it's not a favorable thing. So, as always, love in my heart. I love you all. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I hope you find this insightful. Do any of you have any questions for me while I'm here? And if not, we will drop off. Going once, going twice. All right, everybody. We will see you all next week. Bye.